Hi, I'm Eddie Obeng, and this is How. Daily, I'll bring you a different tool, concept, people engagement tool, or performance enhancement tool. And today, I have a treat for you. It's one which is about shaping reality. But let's go to QUBE and let's see what we can find there. Yeah, so obviously on QUBE, guess what? The sun is always shining. Now, the sun is a funny one because years ago, people thought that the sun was moving around the earth. Why? Because it looked that way. Okay. And then they worked out stories to explain how it moved. It was a chariot. No, it was two balls. One ball was rotating. They had all sorts of explanations. Okay. But they weren't reality. They were trying to describe reality, but they had it wrong because we know that the earth goes around the sun. But the reason you get day and night isn't because the earth goes around the sun, it's because it's spinning. So there's three lots of things, but the reality is the earth is spinning and they all look the same. So it's important to understand what the reality is and the laws of reality. And so today is about the 7 laws of change, because if you break them, bad things happen to you. So let's go and have a look at the pets in a little bit more detail. So where we were here, let's go in. So why would we need to understand the 7 laws of change? Well, I run a project for a company called Glaxo. And the reason I got into the project was because they invited me because the whole business had stalled. Literally, people were going from one meeting to the other without any chance to do any work in between in order to report that the projects are running late. So I had to invent a project called Project, which was about killing off the projects so that we could move forward. Because for some reason, the activity, one change had caused another change, which had then led to chaos. Another one I did was with a company called the Bank of Ireland. And what had happened there is they had a lot of projects which they'd all started, they were all running, and they basically had so much momentum, we had to back off some of the projects in order to create the space to do others. And we had a bonfire, basically, a little bit like Project, but this one was more about realizing that sometimes to go forward, you have to go backwards. And the reason those two had happened is because I think the truth is reality always wins. Change has a pattern. Change has a formula. So in the same way as when you come to the laws of physics and universal laws, we know what they are. If you break these laws, bad things happen to you. So for example, you can believe anything you like. If you drop a glass, it'll shatter. It doesn't matter what you believe. Nothing cares. Reality doesn't care. The glass is going to shatter. And you can see this is a shattered glass. Now, obviously, you can see this one is an AI shattered glass. Because guess what? There's too much glass and the actual glass isn't broken. So although it's simulating reality, this one's real, the other one definitely isn't. So the question is, are there laws of change? And the answer is, spoiler, yes, there are. Okay, so I'm going to go through the laws of change. I'm not going to go through all 7 of them because that's a lot. But what I'll do is I'll just pick out some of them which we've already seen. One change leads to another. It's just a law of change. The way I describe it is changes the fruit and the seed of itself. So it sort of causes itself to happen. The second one, as you saw with the project, is adding change to change creates chaos. Eventually, you actually can't move through it because the whole system becomes chaotic. The third one is that human beings, and I didn't do this in my example, but you'll know this. Have you noticed how when you create an idea in your head, you love it, you rush away to do it, and when other people ask you to do things, go, oh, I don't want to do it, and you become resistant to change? Of course you do, because people will create change and they'll constrain it. It depends on how the change arrives for them. And whenever you try and force people into change, they try and push back against it. And whenever you create it, you invent it in your head, and later we'll talk about that when we talk about stakeholders and persuasion and stuff. Then you drive it forward. Also, change, you can't do all in one bit. So you have to decide which bit. I call it chunk it or junk it. We'll get to that one. But if you try and do it all, because it's changing, you never get anywhere. So you actually have to craft it into little bits. And then the 5th law is really the challenge you're going to have depends on how long the thing has been going. So the Bank of Ireland example, they've been running for a while. So to get people away from projects they'd run for a couple of years, they're really excited about and had spent a lot of their lives on, really difficult. And the resistance builds up, and sometimes you can't do it all in once. So again, the chunking pulls you forward. But the really important thing, especially in our day and age today, where everyone's worried about, oh, there's so much change, there's so much uncertainty. Pagodas survive earthquakes. Remember that. Sharks survive tsunamis. In other words, there are strategies which you can use in complex change. The reason pagodas survive is because they're not one rigid structure, they're loosely coupled. The reason sharks can survive is because they can swim deep and they can go away very, very quickly. And the reason that some insects can survive volcanoes is because they're able, and fungi can, so they're able to move into the cracks and stay away from the heat. So there are strategies for getting around change. But the 7 laws always work. I put some images here for you. Oops, I put some images here for you. The coconut was the closest I come to the seed, and the fruit being the same. They're not the same. Here's a pagoda. And this is you having to go backwards in order to go forwards. So there's 7 laws of change. If you're trying to do something, just remember, don't just change stuff, because if you change it, it's going to create another change. So ask yourself, was that an improvement? Don't create a second change on top of one. You're already running digital transformation, you've added AI, and now you're sending people back to the office. Bad stuff's going to happen to you. You haven't engaged your stakeholders, you haven't got your customers centered to your organization, you're trying to drive from the center, you're the government, you know all the answers. It's going to be grim, okay? You've got to walk your way through it and actually break it into chunks. And also remember, you can't do it all at once, so try and work out what you do, what you give the best benefits. And remember this whole point of when you have designed the outcome, don't try and design things which are rigid. So those are the 7 laws of change. I found them. I've been using them now for a couple of decades, trying them with my clients to see whether they get violated. I'm sure they're not reality, like the sun story, but they're the best I can do. And it tells you whether or not your project, your change, your strategy is going to get smashed like my glass. I've been Eddie Obeng. Have a wonderful time and apply the 7 laws of change. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Goodbye. Bye. See you. Bye.